Thank you so much for joining us to our second episode of Marketing Think Tank. And I'm looking forward to this episode because both of you are coming from different industries. And I'm sure our viewers will be also interested to hear a lot of stories, a lot of anecdotes from you guys.
Sure. Absolutely. Happy to be here.
So starting with you, Rakesh, I want to know, you've been in consumer industry, you've been in telecom, and now in real estate for like past 5 years. Why did you choose real estate marketing, and how the journey has been so far?
So, Kritika, I spent long time. So I had about 30 years of experience before moving to real estate. So I worked with organizations such as Nervale Paints, Kodak India Limited, Reebok India Company. Then I worked with Luxor Parker. And then I worked with telecom operators, three different telecom operators. Last I was with Vodafone Idea. So while working with these three companies, I had seen retail, FMCG, telecom, and to some extent durables. So I had seen, all sort of industries which were possible in the life of a professional. And then in the telecom industry, I had worked for about 17 years, and I had seen, a time when prepaid was getting launched. Postpaid was already there. Then a lot of technological developments happened. 2.5G came in, 3G came in, 4G came in, and then a lot of things were happening. And actually, so to say, market from 2002 when I moved into telecom, market from a sunrise sector came into a disruption at the launch of Jio in 2016-17. So I had pretty much, so I felt I have seen different roles. I joined them as a sales manager for prepaid. Then handled marketing, strategy, national product head role, eventually became a general manager, head of a circle, P&L head, and also saw through the merger of Vodafone and Idea. So I felt that, at the age of 50 years and 3 decades in the industry, I have seen, quite a wide variety. And then this discussion happened with Rustomjee for real estate. And I, felt excited and nervous at the same time because the product category was completely changing. I had never worked with promoter-led organizations, and to that extent, that was also changing. So I thought that it could be a different set of learning for me now. Like telecom industry, real estate industry is very very large industry. I have always believed in the power of product. Whichever products I worked in, whether it was paints or Kodak films, cameras, or Reebok shoes, when you hold those products, you feel the innate beauty of those products. You fall in love. My general manager used to tell me that you need to understand the product, hold the product. You feel connect with that or not. And I felt so much connect, for holding Kodak 100 ASA film. I felt it is fabulous. It feels good. Similarly, cameras, Reebok products, telecom. Any party or any get together, even personal meetings you go to, people would ask about, the telecom network. Mostly complaints, people would give to you. Now, like we were discussing, product cannot be more beautiful than the home that you are going to ultimately stay in. So this is the product which actually pulled me here, and also Rustomjee's brand name. So I thought that I have got an opportunity to be a part of such a large industry. And, I have not worked in real estate before. The product is different. The setup is going to be different. Mumbai is the largest market in the country for real estate. I moved in from Kolkata. My last place of hosting a Vodafone Idea was in Kolkata. So I was staying there. And then, this thing happened. So I moved in here. My family was happy to come to Mumbai. And I looked at the opportunity that, I would be working in the largest market in the country. I would be working with a prestigious brand name. And then the product is very, very beautiful. So this is what led me here. And I'm happy, I spent 5 years and I think, I'm still learning.
Nice. And Tirthankar, what about you? Because your journey has been interesting as well, because in past you've been in hospitality. Now you shifted to real estate, but before that you had been in all kind of FMCG product, also involved in launching, the strategic planning and everything. What made you enter real estate market?
So if I look back, say 20 years that I have been working now post my business school education, when you look at as a marketeer, what really interests any marketeer in any category is how complex is the consumer insight and what is the size of the consumer problem, and then you derive what is the job that needs to be done. Now, when you look at all of these aspects of, and if you come with that curious mindset of a problem-solving marketeer, what better industry or what better category to look at something which is so important for any one of us, right? Your home, and the last few years of COVID has only increased the importance of it. All of us have started discovering newer areas of our home to connect with, spend time with, and that's where we see it. A lot of first-time buyers in our category today. But if I were to look back at real estate, so just before real estate, I spent almost 8 years in hospitality with as part of the Tata Group with Taj Hotels, being absolutely at the forefront of hospitality services globally, being recognized as one of the global hospitality leaders, travelers from across the world. They absolutely vouch for what Taj offers. One of the big things of learning there was about, end of the day, it is about one human connecting to another and creating a kind of a experience for you which becomes so memorable in everything, right? A great meal, a beautiful family occasion celebrated together, a wedding, which is so important for Indians, absolutely fantastic top-notch conference which was so successful for the organization, or team building, or a simple holiday, right? So when I look at that, and when I looked at what's next for me, real estate is as much brick and mortar on the product that every promoter is so passionate about building. Like every successful real estate company you look at, there is a very, very strong involvement of the promoter. And the reason is that creative work needs that. Very few organizations globally in any industry would have been successful creatively if decision making was by a company. It has to have somebody's passion. And I came from that industry. If you look at hoteliering, it is the passion of individuals. Some of them may not be promoters, but they are as much custodians. Like if you look at Mr. Ratan Tata or Mr. R. Krishna Kumar, who was the vice chairman at that point of time, or if you look at a respected hospitality company like Oberoi, So it is the passion of that individual to drive to that perfection. What was needed at real estate at that point of time, and some of the early, I would say, visionaries realized was real estate needed that aspect of service and human touch, and more so at the higher end of real estate, because Indians were much more well traveled. So if I look at the 2000s, early 2010s, they were far more, I would say, exposed to what living was about in international cities, like say in London, in New York, or in Singapore, or closer home in say Dubai. They realized that aspect of service. It's almost like saying, if I can stay in a luxury hotel for 7 days in a year, what happens if I stay 365 days? Now, where will that skill set come from? Where will that understanding and that appreciation come from? And I thought that it was something which I had almost inherited over such a long period of time. I could have contributed to this. And there was a meeting of minds which happened. And that is the reason why I looked at joining the real estate industry, and thankfully with the leader of the industry, and which allowed me to do a lot of things for the first time. And there was a lot of, I would say, patronage and support, which helped to look at those aspects of the business beyond what was some of the traditional norms of, I would say, real estate development, marketing, sales, customer service, customer experience at point of sale. A lot of learnings from other industries, which today, thankfully, many have started picking that up. So us as leaders, we have to constantly push the barrier up.
So marketing core is storytelling, right? Because the way you both are telling me your story, it's quite wonderful to hear how your journey has ended up in real estate market. But I want to understand, with your background, you have come across the products you had to sell, be a hotel or be any kind of product you were associated with. When it comes to real estate, the product is under construction or is being launched and customers are being brought in to make them understand or show them a vision. How does storytelling plays an important role when it comes to real estate? Because there you don't have the product right ready in front of you to convince the customer. It's more on the layout, it's more on the communication part. So how do you see over the time how the storytelling has created an importance in real estate marketing?
So it was always important. What has essentially changed are the tools. So if I look at it in any business, in any category, and more so like you rightly said in real estate, there is a long gestation period between when you actually sign on the dotted line to when you start consuming the product. There's no other category like that. Even I would say the most exclusive automobile for which you may have to wait for a year to get your customized vehicle, which is say the leather is up to your choice, the color, the design, anything, right? But on average for real estate, it is good, say 4 to 5 years, right? So if everything goes right, and so when you are dealing with something, that's one part. Second is, like I was saying, it's the most expensive thing that you ever buy in your life. Depending on your budget, life stage, need, city, the price point varies. But for you, it's the most expensive. That's the level of involvement which is there in the purchase. Like if that's the case, it is essentially why the storytelling becomes so important, because you are not selling the square feet or the cubic feet, right? What you are essentially selling is what your life is going to be when you start staying in this home. That's the attachment which is there in this category, right? And you are not alone in this. It is not an individual consumption product. You consume it with your immediate family, extended family, your well-wishers, friends, influencers, anybody who you consider important in your journey, right? When you have so many people attached with this particular category, it has to start meaning different things to different people, right? So in the early days, it was all about, creating this computer-generated imagery. A lot of that, right? You typically create a brochure, you will have floor plans to show the size. But unfortunately, we as humans, like the room that we are right in, if I empty this entire room, we can't visualize what this room could do or how much you can pack in this room and not feel like a furniture store, right? We can't visualize empty spaces. So when that's the problem, you will have to help the consumer visualize, place him in that. And how do you place him? And that is where technology has taken leaps and bounds in the last few years. And the last, I would say, 12 to 18 months have been absolutely rapid. If you look at today, technology is extremely democratic. What I mean by democratic is technological power or computing power is not reserved for enterprise customers anymore. Earlier, if you were to look at large global organizations, only had the ability to churn data, analyze data, or use advanced computer programming, machine language. And today, it is absolutely available to all of us in smallest devices like our phones. You don't need large setups. Now, what has essentially that done is it has taken away a large part of the intermediary of where you need to code, use. Today, it is all about the natural language, right? If you can speak in your native language well, computer or the AI understands that, and it can create what we call digital twins. So today in our industry, what we use are what is the actual product going to be, right? And if you have actually invested, it's like a good film, right? Where you have good production values, a good story, a good script. If you can create that, we as audiences get mesmerized and we start laughing, we start weeping, we start celebrating. The entire theater goes up in joy when something happens in the film. That's the power of a good storytelling, right? Today, the tools allows us to do that. And we can help the consumer today understand exactly and almost touch and feel what the home is going to be, or how the arrival experience is going to be, and how he or she is going to spend time with the amenities. Today, that is eminently possible, and which has helped us as marketeers. Those are like the arsenals or like the weapons that we have in our toolkit today to use. And so it's very, very interesting, very, very exciting.
So you agree with this, that storytelling do exist in real estate marketing?
Yeah, I think, for a product which is available only at the conceptual stage and will come up in the next 4, 5 years, 6 years, storytelling is important. Now, just building on and not repeating what he said, what happens is that in case of an established brand, you already have various proofs that you created in the market, right? So whether we use the physical collateral, the brochures or the renders, or we create it digitally, you create all those product stories, share it with the customers, and, with the help of digital, it has actually become better. The possibilities are increased. But then the actual storytelling actually happens from the delivered projects. I have seen so many cases where in some of our projects, customers come and tell us that they went to our existing projects. And we also facilitate that at times. So when customers go to existing projects, they understand, what your brand has delivered over a period of time. The storytelling is not just about the product that you are going to deliver in the future, I think it also includes for us the testimonials, what we've already delivered. That proof is already there in the market. So with that, I think, the more of that you have, I think it also helps in creating that impact of the storytelling.
But correct me if I'm wrong, because a lot of people talk about Mumbai, especially when it comes to Mumbai real estate market. यहाँ ज़्यादातर focus is on square feet, right? If you see the hoardings also, where it's highlighted in a bigger way, इतने square feet में you have to pay this much and you'll subvention schemes, everything you have seen in Mumbai real estate market. Do you feel Mumbai real estate market still depends on the square feet storytelling? Because the bigger you show, or the way you show that particular, because everyone in their mind knows that match boxes वाले घर होते हैं मुंबई में. But the way you tell the story in your hoardings, in your marketing, does it create any difference, or you think customers are not bothered about the square feet? It's all about how you're marketing your product.
I would like to, Kritika, take a step back and then say, I think it depends on the company's brand strategy. The way you look at your brand, the way the company wants to communicate the brand strengths to the customers, and what is the story that they have to speak about. Now, many brands would like to not just focus on price per square feet or the ticket sizes. The brands may like to speak about what they are delivering to the customers in terms of the total value proposition. It can be, certain soft values that you are creating, maybe some places that you are creating. You are creating those experiences for the family and the friends and family to come together and enjoy. I think it is quite dependent on the marketing team and also the brand strategy that the particular brand takes. Now, if you feel that you would like to probably, create an additional opportunity in the market by talking about the return per square feet or, some prices per square feet and all that, I think some brands would like to take that approach. But I think certain other brands would like to talk about the total value proposition, what they bring, the quality of life. Also, I think it depends on the segment that you cater to. Certain segments which are price sensitive may actually get appealed more by the price offerings. And certain segments which are not as concerned just by the prices and they would like to see at the total value proposition. I think it depends. So I think it depends on the segment that you are talking to. And also it depends, what your brand philosophy is, what your brand strategy is.
So would you agree with this? Because what I'm noticing apart from prices, the focus is also on the name. So now we have Greater Thane, now we have Malabar 2.0, BKC 2.0. Do you think these are also an act of marketing strategy where you want to bring in more eyeballs? Because we have seen in Twitter where debates, discussion or memes were happening. Okay, Malabar 2.0 is that side, or Greater Thane is now more towards your Kalyan side. So do you think marketing in real estate has still not, especially in Mumbai market I'm talking about, is still not figured out how to crack when it comes to reaching out the audience in terms of different approach in communication or different approach be in, I would say, placement wise?
I beg to differ. I think Mumbai is one of the most evolved real estate markets globally. That's why if you look at in Mumbai real estate, any real estate, even if you're an investor, if you look at your portfolio of investments and you look at multiple cities in India, you would always look at Mumbai. That is a reason why even real estate being so local as a business, like globally, there are very few companies. There is no equivalent of, say, a Coca-Cola in real estate, right? A multinational organization having real estate business in multiple countries. The largest real estate companies globally, I think 8 out of 10 are in China, right? So so in spite of being local, Mumbai is the market which attracts the best of real estate developers from across the country. The reason for that is the Mumbai consumer is a very, very evolved real estate consumer today. Mumbai has seen, I would say, organized real estate for maybe the longest in the country. So like the company I represent, Kalpataru, we have been in this business for 55 years now. Now, 55 years for a company in real estate is an equivalent of maybe a 100-year-old fashion brand or a 100-year-old hospitality company. Because organized real estate is a fairly newer business, So with that, the Mumbai consumer appreciates that value. See, the problem starts happening is when you start treating real estate like an investment asset class, which it is not, right? Even if you invest in real estate for appreciation, returns, which you should rightfully do. But please understand, when will that return come from? You will eventually get a return is if you decide to place the product in the market, or if you put it as a rent-bearing asset, right? For you to pay me rental yields, or for you to give me a return for that asset which I have bought at a particular point of time and buy it at a higher price, it has to be a quality asset, right? Why will you pay, say, 2.5 lakhs, 3 lakhs per month for a 3-bedroom apartment in, say, Lower Parel, right? A consumer, there is no dearth of choice, right? So a consumer attaches a certain value with a certain product, and when that value is getting met is when the consumer is paying for the product. Now coming to the point of what do we create in our communication, which is the point you made, that in spite of homes being matchboxes. As marketeers, again, I'll go back, what are we doing? We're trying to solve the problem of the consumer. Consumer's problem is space is limited, which is a reality of Mumbai, right? Mumbai doesn't have absolutely unending stretches of land. It's a narrow, long city, right? It is growing this vertically. It doesn't have enough space to grow either on the east or the west. There is reclamation has happened, which has primarily been used for infrastructure building, so that connectivity improved. We spend less time on the road, on traffic, and more productive time. So when land is in such limited short supply, you have to be far more, I would say, skilled to utilize that space and design and come up with solutions for consumers which will solve their problem. Globally, it has happened with cities. If you take examples of a place like, say, Tokyo, right? Heavy, high density, high volume, but how intelligent. And that's the reason why in this category, the maximum amount of time has to be spent in product development. So at Kalpataru, a lot of times we, as sales and marketing people, we have this frustration. Why aren't we taking this product to the market the fastest? But please appreciate the fact that this is not an FM category product. Means it's not fast moving consumer goods or consumer. You're going to spend, it's 20, 25, 30 years with if you get a good home. So it better be created with that thought process, that much amount of detailing, which will help you solve that problem. And the third thing that you spoke about was this showing larger spaces and all. I think the consumer is smart to see through mis-selling. I don't think few examples of almost ludicrous mis-selling is the right way to look at the category or the practices of the evolved players like what we're talking about, the industry leaders in this category. That's the reason why they have been successful in this business for so many years. Not only Kalpataru, there are quite a few who have delivered homes where second, third generation people today are staying. What we essentially cater to is the aspiration. And this aspiration is not limited only to the first time home buyer or the 50 lakh home buyer. Even for a 50 crore home buyer also, he or she has an aspiration. Different way to be met, different language to be spoken, but it's an aspiration. That is the reason why that storytelling or that dreaming is very, very important, because he or she is also dreaming end of the day when he or she has decided to buy that home or to move in. So I think those aspects are very important to look at and how you tread marketing in this category.
So with this addressable market, Gen Z and millennials, when you market to them, I want to understand, do you also consider their preferences in your project when it comes to amenities, when it comes to demand of having an office setup or something like that? Do you consider those preferences when you are addressing this kind of market?
Oh, absolutely. For any campaign or any marketing proposition to be successful, your product has to back you, support you. Rarely you have had long-term successful campaigns which have worked where you didn't have the backing of them. In real estate, when you are creating a product which is going to see light of the day after 4 or 5 years, that much forward thinking is very, very important to almost, I would say, segregate what is a consumer behavioral change, what is a short-term behavior, and what is going to last, and what will people graduate to over a period of time. Right. So to give you an example, right. So when the pandemic happened, say 4 years back, all of us wanted to open up inside our homes, right? And suddenly the most prized possession for anybody was to have a deck or a light.
Yeah.
That was the talking point.
Yeah.
Like, the fact is, because of regulation changes, the market had moved away. And because spaces were so less in Mumbai, naturally, we were trying to utilize majority of the spaces. And we started enclosing the spaces and giving people a bigger size living. So that was the trend, say, I would say, in the 2011-12, in all homes started enclosing the rents, right? And you have this last shiny towers, like what has happened in some of the global cities, like Singapore, like Mumbai started going that way. Now, I can't pivot immediately in my existing products. Now, when you look at launching new products, that becomes an important point to look at, that is it satisfying use? But apart from this, there were many other aspects which were noticed at that point in time. But the question is, will they last for 4 or 5 years and still be as relevant as possible? If I look at the category that you primarily spoke about, Gen Z and millennials, I think one of the important learnings for any brand in this category is what is the value or the attachment that this audience is going to have with you. If across every other category, they have been usually so fickle, and it is primarily being on trend which matters. But this is not a product category which moves on trend. This has much longest shelf life, right? So they are only going to value you and have an attachment with you when they start seeing that this category is fulfilling some of their primary needs and they are willing to trade off. Why we have seen across these younger audience today started buying homes is primarily this realization that this is important for me. I need to, I can have this my place, this is my freedom. I do not need to be touched. So today where you can still develop careers working from anywhere or having different vocations in life, it doesn't matter today exactly which part of the town. And then they started realizing that I'm willing to say sacrifice a so-called Tony pin code where I was renting earlier if I have like-minded people around. If I have spaces where I can do my kind of if I have got, because if infrastructure is starved, at least I have connectivity when I need to. When these things start ticking the boxes, they are happy to move. They are happy to buy. It is known Mumbai has a higher cost of living. And it's not only real estate. It is across categories. The price that you pay for a restaurant meal in Mumbai as compared to, say, Calcutta, where Rakesh was working earlier, there's a big difference, which is it is a known economics. Within that, if you are being able to deliver more value, you will garner a larger share of audience with the category of concern.
Do you agree with that?
So I think your question had another dimension about how we use the amenities or, for the Gen Z. So the product development process starts on us with the understanding of the segment that we are going to cater. Now with this segment, what age group, what family size, the demographic. Even the social behavior of people. So first of all, it starts with that process. So we try to understand. And for that, what we do 2 things. One is we do the consumer research on an ongoing basis. So whenever we go to a new area, so let us say if we launch a new project and a topic or like Makunda, the areas where we've not been in the past. So we like to do the consumer research. And we go and meet the customers and understand from them what exactly are they looking for. What are their ambitions? What are their requirements? And in the markets where we are already there, we pick up the understanding from the existing projects, the amenities which are being utilized. So we look at the usage data, then we understand, what amenities are being used and what amenities are being demanded more by the customers. So the entire product development process starts from, the project will be delivered at a time, when this the current landscape will change. Maybe people's behavior, consumption pattern, technology would also change. I think some kind of forward orientation also needs to be brought in and probably strengthened further. But then, the product development process takes into consideration that, this is the segment we will plan.
So let's talk about the existing projects of both of you. So I've noticed in Thane Kalpataru and Thane Rustomjee, where both the communication was happening very differently. So where Kalpataru was showcasing in their communication lifestyle, EV chargers, decks, spaces, Rustomjee communication was your dream home you can achieve by 1.5 CR. Many amenities you can get in a township like this, where there are a lot of towers, but amazing amenities and all. Both the communication I have been noticing and seeing it for a while, and I've visited both the properties. I notice both are like, I think not hugely in a very distance manner. एक नासिक हाईवे के उस तरफ है, एक इस तरफ है. Where now Central Park का एक theme garden भी खुल गया है. Point is, in both the properties, what I noticed, the communication played a different role to attract a different gentry altogether. So when you go to such areas like Thane, I'm sure before you come up with the product and all, you will keep certain price and certain time in market, right? So does marketing guys get involved in this? Or is it once the product is ready or marketing people give their data, this area mein ja rahe, so let's focus on these amenities or on these particular time market. I want to understand the process behind, because both the products were quite interesting and both of them had a huge success. So I want to understand about these products which are already existing, so our viewers can also understand how the mind or how the planning went behind these two products.
For any marketing campaign to be successful, marketing has to be an integral part of the new product development process. And that is at the core of how we work at Kalpataru. So we take a reasonably long period of time to fine-tune a product before we, because I believe we are not a builder or a developer. We are essentially product designers. So that is something that Kalpataru takes pride in, and which has been honed and developed for the last 55 years. That's the reason why Kalpataru has been known as the house of firsts. We have had so many innovations starting back in the 60s and 70s. If you see the developments in Federal Road, the buildings like Nilambar, Shitej, they introduced many things. Or even a project like Horizon in Poly. Poly has the best of products from every creative developer in Mumbai. But if you look at the way that building stands and what was created at that point of time, this entire aspect on premiumizing on sea views to give you the first habitable floor at a very higher level than which usually used to be at that point of time, were absolutely, I would say, visionary thinking of the promoters and partners. So a similar kind, and when you look at a project like Park City, it's a destination piece for money. So when we approached that project, it was never about giving affordable homes to a Mumbai. No. It was fulfilling aspirations for a generation of Thanekars. So it was never about building homes which are, I would say, affordable for a Mumbaikar. We believe that Thane as a city today, as part of the Mumbai metropolitan region, has huge potential for development, and which is already getting fulfilled today. And further commitments of both infrastructure and private, I would say, investment of capital is proving that. Today, Thane, as if I'm a resident of Thane, I'm self-sufficient. I'm not dependent on any of the other places like, say, Mumbai or Navi Mumbai to fulfill any of my needs. So if that is the case, then the product has to live up to it. So we realized over a period of time, and which is proving even more today, is there is a natural trend towards premiumization, right? In every category, whether it is even, say, if I look at an FMCG category moving from, say, soaps to body washes, scrubs, the entire D2C businesses that we are looking at, organic, coffee, milk, chocolates, everything, right? There is a trend which is there. And more so we realized in this case. So when you have a parcel of land of that size and importance and bang in Kolshet Road at the heart of Thane, it had to be developed in that. And when you are developing a grand central park right at the heart of Thane, which, forget Thane, when rarely any other city of Mumbai has that. We are so starved of such public infrastructure, right? So in collaboration with the Thane Municipal Corporation, when we looked at developing that, it was all about creating that life of around living in the flora and fauna, around nature, and living around the world-class. Because that's where the pride and the joy comes from. You know, your home. You can't have a bigger trophy or a bigger dress that you can talk about, a bigger possession that you can have. So if those are the requirements, then you naturally have to build something which is about fulfilling those desires, rather than looking at isn't at a particular price point, or because the consumers are going to see through. And as a business, Kalpataru, in any micro market that we operate in, we typically operate at the top end of the market. We believe we create absolutely long-lasting, world-class premium products which last the rest of time. That's what we are good at. That's our DNA. And we went with the same thought process for Kalpataru Park Cities, and which is what gets reflected in the communication, because then only the communication works, because if it stands true to the product, that is.
Tell us about Rustomjee as Yano. What went through that? Because it's a huge township. People love it. Everyone could afford it, and a lot of amenities. And that created a different, I would say, game changer for the Thane market.
So I'll answer this in a couple of pieces, right? So one, I will speak about Thane, Rustomjee Thane, and then I will also speak about the other projects that we are delivering here, and then I'll also talk about Rustomjee's brand philosophy. What we've done. So Rustomjee as a brand, like now we bought our punchline and it's thoughtful Rustomjee. Earlier it was childhoods available. For Thane, for Rustomjee Albania, as Yano is a part of Albania.
Yeah.
We used childhoods available. That was the tagline that we were. So we always believed, the brand philosophy is that we believe in nurturing spaces, building communities, and bringing the families together to give them quality time that they can spend together and they can enjoy their life by being together. So what a home should be to the customer. Home has to provide security, it has to provide comfort, it has to provide you that happy experience where you would like to stay. Our promoters believe, and this is the organization philosophy that we've seen, that we would like to sell only those houses where we ourselves would like to stay. So none of our product offering, whether it is a Virar offering or a Thane offering or something in Mumbai, all our products or projects should be such that after making that, we ourselves would like to stay there. Now, as Yano, the particular wing that you are talking about, like I said earlier, it depends on what kind of segment are you talking. What is it which is going to be most interesting for that segment to understand? What is it that you would like to pitch to that customer? So, now that's a huge land parcel. So there we've got about 110 acres and the project has come up in different phases. So now we've come up with larger apartments there, and in the future we are going to come up with even larger and more premium offerings. So I think the project has gone through an entire life cycle, and it is a hugely successful project in Thane. Now, when you look at the communication that we adopted, now, like I said, in Rustomjee, Mumbai, we bought various flagship projects, which are, the most premium project in the vicinity where, in the particular micro markets. Like, Pali Hill, we bought 2 projects, Panorama and Parishram. Prabhadevi, we bought Rustomjee Crown. Elements is one of the flagship projects that we delivered.
Yeah.
BKC Extension, Kalanagar, the Seasons, and so many other projects. Right, Oriana is the project that we delivered earlier, and Sita. Paramount is another project that we delivered in Thane. So all these projects are the projects which are actually, the landmarks in particular areas. So like I said, Rustomjee as a brand is catering to the whole spectrum of the segment, right from the entry level to the topmost level. This is something that I like to say is that, like various other luxury brands in automobiles, right? You think about Mercedes or a BMW. So, not everybody can buy and afford. So, Rustomjee we've seen is kind of a flagship brand, is a premium brand, which a 50 lakh customer, if he wants to get into a Rustomjee, we've got an offering for the customer. So, across the length and breadth of Mumbai metropolitan region, we've got projects where, I'm sure you must have seen, something which got reported in media, which was the 3-figure transaction which happened in one of our projects in Pali Hill.
Yeah.
Right. So this is one brand where the customer from across the segments can come forward, live there, enjoy the amenities, and still feel then that brand is aspirational for them. Right. Otherwise, what happens is that the moment you open your brand to an entry segment, you might need to create another brand for the premium or the luxury segment. But in case of Rustomjee, with our segmented approach, which our segmented communication approach, got a process which is called brand architecture. And in that brand architecture, we have created different communication tonalities. The brand guidelines, the brand book is different for the different segments that we get. While the entire customer base is assured of Rustomjee or the Rustomjee quality of life, but the way we communicate this brand is different for the different segments. Also, you mentioned about the involvement of marketing in terms of designing product. I think it may be very, very primitive to say that create a product and then give it to marketing just to advertise. If marketing is not a part of the product development journey, like he also said, the today's customers are smart. Customer does not become dumb when he comes to buy a real estate. Or does not become smart when he goes to buy a smartphone and would like to compare different products, and then basis the brand positioning, communication, the value proposition that the customer feels. Customer would like to be very, very smart when the customer buys the real estate. So the brands which are able to connect well with the customer, offer the brand proposition, offer the the promise, and also offer the proof of what they've delivered in the past. I think that's the total equation that you can deliver.
I think it's the only industry where marketing people are involved in the starting of the project, right?
100%. So like I told you, marketing takes care of the consumer research part. And any new market or any new sizable project that we make, consumer research is a must. We start from there. I mean, gone are the days when we would work on our whims and fancies, or we would work with some kind of hunches that we have. Today, at the time of developing any project, we get into data analytics to a different level. This can be, a primary data or a secondary data or maybe a tertiary data. We get into data analytics. We use the prosperity indexes which are available. We get into the market planning activity like any other evolved FMCG or durable organization would like to do at the time of product launches. There are very, very passionate debates which happen. Somebody may have some thoughts that, I can sell a different ticket size of apartment, but the other person, ultimately, the other person may not feel so. So whether it is the promoter, founders, directors, or the leadership team, the passionate arguments are out. There are free-flowing, passionate discussions, and ultimately, it is the quality of argument that wins. The products are made as per what is the right opportunity in the market. We don't like to repeat what is getting sold in the market. We don't like to make more of what is getting sold in the market. Rather than that, we like to look at the latent opportunity in the market. But for arriving at that decision, a lot of passionate discussion happens with the help of data. As people can look at data, in their different manner. But then ultimately, when 5 different points of view come into the room, then the best of the decisions are had.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
So I want to understand, both of you are marketing experts. You have seen the project launches. You've been part of the projects. When projects are launched and stuck, I've noticed rebranding, recommunication, or different strategy all come together in place to make that project sell, right? So I want to understand, maybe in your perspective, or you have gone through certain challenge, how do you make sure that the project which got stuck, how it needs to have a different new communication or rebranding done? Because it should not disassociate with the fact that what you communicated before to the consumers, and now if you're launching it again as a different launch, how do you make sure? I want to understand how the communication, or how does the strategy works there when a product is launched and you have to launch it again because there was a challenge in earlier space, but how to go about it?
So, products or brands go through repositioning exercises across industries. Real estate is not alone. What you thought is relevant, or what is the problem that you thought at a sizable level you will be able to solve for the consumer, when that doesn't happen, you generally end up not meeting your business goals, right? Typically, if I look at a life cycle of a project, of a real estate project, you will go through a pre-launch, a launch, then you will have 2 to 3 years of sustenance, and then you will enter the year just getting delivery ready. Then you will reach a stage of being OC ready, then you will get your OC, and then. So for a successful real estate project, what we look at is that before OC comes, you should be 95%, right? If that is the metric, and then if you look at for a successful pre-launch and launch, if you want to sell say 30 to 40% of the volume, because that's where you have the maximum ability to drive velocity of sales, right? Why? Because consumer has the maximum choice of inventory. As a buyer, what are my incentives to buy at say a pre-launch or a launch? The full choice of inventory. I have hopefully a smart price point which allows me to enter the project, and I see value in doing that. When do you become unsuccessful in achieving this? Is either your product speccing that you have done is not meeting the need of the customer, or you overestimated in terms of how many people would be looking at this as a product proposition. So you go wrong sometimes. Sometimes you overbuild, sometimes you undersize. Like today, if I were to look at it, majority of the projects where any developer has a problem is essentially to sell small. Most products Mumbai today challenge is to sell small and sell smaller apartments or sell entry-level apartments. Because majority of the buoyancy in demand is essentially for larger spaces, like most categories. If you look at automobile as a category, essentially the challenge is in the entry-level hatchbacks, but your premium sedans and SUVs are flying off the shelves. So when you look at a repositioning exercise, there has to be a change in the product. If you haven't suppose it's a multi-tower development, you have launched with the first tower, you may make product specing changes in the second one. Whether it is resizing apartments or whether design changes are there, or even in terms of the number of floors or the density that you are thinking of. So all this comes from being very close to the ground. And that's the role marketing plays very strong. Right. It is about understanding what is the actual consumer feedback of either success or failure. Then bring that to the table in the management decision making, because these have long-term ramifications of changes, right? It has hundreds, thousands of crores that are at stake, right? And companies' cash flows are dependent on this, because you plan your cash flows for projects to come at a certain interval. So when that decision making happens, then you pick up what is the key change that you have done in this and what it means for the consumer. To give a very, I would say, generic example, suppose you have launched a project without balconies or decks, and you realize the majority of the feedback that is coming across your projects are room sizes are fine, location is fine, but we are looking for apartments with decks. Right. So if that's what you have changed in the design, then that is what you have to anchor your communication next time when you go ahead with that. Because essentially, your core remains the same. People are buying, say, a Kalpataru home, which has certain parameters attached with it for the last 55 years. They haven't changed. There was a fundamental disconnect maybe in the product that you have taken to the market first time. There are not many buyers for that category, or you overestimated or underestimated a price point or a demand, which then you would go make that change and go back and communicate that very, very clearly across as a 360 across touch points. So that the consumer can come to your point of sale and can see the difference. Because the buying is a long cycle, right? So the fastest somebody buys is maybe 6 months, right? Never seen anything less than that. There are periods where people have been actively searching for maybe 18 to 24 months as well also, before actually deciding what to buy. So people take that time, and if they see that there is a genuine change which has happened and the pain point has got resolved, we do get a lot of customers who would have visited us in the past come back and actually pick up their phone. So I think that's the role, that being understanding that what was the pain point for not consuming the same, and then taking it to the market across all touch points is what then guarantees the success of that repositioning or the relaunch exercise.
Have you faced such challenge where the product is ready, you can't make change to the product, but now how to rebrand it again?
I would say rarely. I think that goes to show the strength of the product development and the design process and the consumer understanding of Kalpataru, which has been honed for so many years, being very, very close, being realistic. That ability to decipher between what's a consumer behavior, what's a short-term trend, and that ability to hold on to that. I think that's the strength that the organization has displayed. Yes, there have been challenges where I would say a certain kind of product has been a slow mover in the entire stack of products, then you have to look at, because the market has different kinds of.
Then how do you go about it?
It is essentially, when you look at, is that who does it appeal to, who does it solve a purpose, right? Not all of us are extremely discerning or finicky about everything that we consume. There are people who would be maybe willing to make a compromise in a way, right? So or I will not say compromise, maybe other factors appeal to them more than what you are thinking appeals. So I think that's where reorienting your targeting also becomes important, but not at the cost of value. Because please understand that for trying to solve a 10% problem or a 15% problem, you're not going to destroy the 90% or the 85% of the product. I think when you go into that trap of destroying value, then things start falling down, which is a very, very difficult path to come back from, because it has ramifications on your future work. Because like Rakesh was saying, the biggest testimonial is somebody who has actually put money on the table and bought your product in the past and enjoy it, right? Anybody can give you an opinion, influence you, but finally, if it is such a high involvement category where such high stakes are involved, you would listen to somebody who has spent his or her hard-earned money in buying that product and is actually satisfied using that product. So I think that's why these decisions have much more longer term implications, and it's not just about getting a quick sale in that quarter and moving out, because people will remember what happened.
True. So have you faced such challenge, like where the product is being slow moving or the product is launched and the turnaround the way you expected has not been there?
It happens, right? So in my 5 years in Rustomjee, I have seen certain projects. Somehow, out of those 5 years, that financial year 2019-20 was a slow period in itself for real estate industry, where there was hardly any growth in the industry itself. And 2021 also was a flat year, thanks to stupendous sales in H2 of 2021 COVID period, where first half was absolutely zero. Now, it happens in certain life cycle of the project. At times, it may happen that the sales may be little low as compared to what we expected. But then, at the topic of branding, okay, so I would just come back, is that I think, whenever things don't go right, and not just in real estate, even in the other industries also where I have worked, I would say the fundamentals are, go back to the basics. Just see what's working, what's not working. Just understand, what is the value proposition that we started with, what is the promise that we were thinking we are making to the customer. Then what is it that we are communicating? And then what is it that the consumer is understanding? So very, very often I have seen, Kritika, is that, there is a difference. You create an X combination, but your communication goes about Y, and your sales team communicates Z to the customers. It is when you actually get the entire pieces right, when you start communicating the benefit that you came up with originally. And when you also align on your sourcing team to communicate what you set out for, then, the things start getting corrected in itself. So I would just like to break it also into two parts. So in the projects, no issues about branding and all. So wherever the sales go down of a particular inventory, let us say, we've come up with 3 or 4 kinds of typologies or sizes in a particular project, and we feel that a particular size is not selling, then very, very often when we go back to the basics, we find that the communication is still happening on the other sizes, or the sales team is still, talking to the channel partners about the other sizes. Then you correct everything, and then you start communicating the benefit of a particular product or inventory that you want to see, and things sort of. This is about point number 1. The point number 2, I'm just going back to your original question about branding or rebranding activity. Mostly for real estate, for all the companies, I would say, in branding, there are 2 kinds of approaches that you adopt. One is a house of brand approach, and the second is the branded house approach that you adopt. A house of brand is something like, maybe I can give an example of HUL or Unilever, where they've got different brands, and they've got Close-Up, they've got Lux, they've got Surf, they've got so many products, right? But then Unilever is an industrial entity, right? Is the overall owner of all the brands. In case of real estate, in case of Rustomjee, our branding activity is such is that Rustomjee is the main brand, right? Is the mother brand. And then with that, whether it is Rustomjee Parishram Palehil or Rustomjee Panorama Palehil or Rustomjee Crown Prabha Devi, so Rustomjee is the promise to the customer. It's a branded house communication that we are doing. Even when we acquired a project in Prabha, it was being sold by another builder. We acquired it in 2018-19. And, we also evaluated whether we should change Crown name to something else. But we decided that, our Rustomjee brand name, because that is where we've been, that is what we've been communicating to the customer. Customer has got trust with that. So just bringing Rustomjee and then Crown and then Prabha Devi is a fair enough promise for the customer. Right? So I think rebranding, I would say, I would not like to encourage it. Personally, as a marketeer, at times in a difficult situation, one may need to do that. But I think going back to basics, just looking at if our planning was right, and if we get the execution also matching with the planning, I think many a time the situations actually don't go to the level of doing the rebrand.
So during the pandemic, we saw a new trend where mandate business was happening a lot, where the developers were quite mesmerized by the team because they were talking about how talented the team is coming from IMIT, and they could handle from the creative side, from coming up with the communication part till the end while selling. So they could give it to everything to the mandate business guys. Pandemic, 2 years, we saw that trend happening. Now post-pandemic, it's a bit less. But do you see mandate business will become one of the major or tool that developers will use, and internal teams like marketing in those brands will go smaller?
So I think it's a beautiful concept, right? All the mandate partners who are there, with all respect to them, I think they are really powerhouses. They are a group of very, very talented people who know real estate. Now for Rustomjee, we've actually not used much of mandate partners in most of our launches. We've not used them. Except that in the H2 of previous financial year, for some of our existing projects, we had the tie-up and it was productive. I think, so my general view about having mandate partners is, the value that they bring on the table. Like you've said, they've got talent. They can stitch together the sales and marketing piece. They can put together the strategy. And then obviously there's a cost to that, right? You outsource a particular job and then you pay certain cost for that. In my view, in my experience, which is across various industries, one thing what I feel is that you can outsource anything, but you can't outsource your customer and your brand. Those are integral part of the organization. That part cannot be outsourced. You can outsource an activity, you can outsource a function, or you can outsource a process. What I have learned working with different industries, different Indian and multinational organizations, is that, outsourcing your brand and your customer side is something different. That's the basic foundation of the organization. This is one point. The second point is also the organization game plan, the organization business plan. So let us say, what is the percentage cost of sales and marketing manpower to the turnover that you do? If let us say, just for example, if I can just tell you ballpark, so let us say you pay X percentage to the mandate partner. And if you feel that your cost of having an internal sales and marketing machinery is X minus certain percentages. So then, one has to decide whether to outsource or to build their capability internally. Right. So for Rustomjee as an organization, we've got large plans. And, we've been growing really well in the last 3-4 years. And we've got huge growth plan. All our acquisitions, we've done close to 15 acquisitions in the last 2 years. The next 2-3 years are going to see about 5 to 7 launches happening every year. The way we've got our business plans, we would like to build our internal processes, which are extremely strong. We would like to, in fact, in the last 5 years, also we built very robust sales and marketing machinery. As I was telling you, in our sales and marketing organogram, we've got a full-fledged strategy team, which takes care of market assessment, evaluation, developing project-wise sales and marketing strategy, pricing, communication plan. Then in our marketing team, we've got a separate brand and communication team. Then we've got marketing operations team. We've got a complete digital marketing team separately. Also, PR and events is another team that we have. Similarly, in sales, we've got very elaborate, we've got good structure. So today, we've got very strong sales and marketing team that we've created. And what we feel is, what I like to say internally to my board of directors is that we've created the head, heart, and brain of the sales and marketing machinery. If at times, suppose we get 5 projects in 6 months' time that we have to launch, and if we need to get, maybe, more bodies or more hands and legs, that we need to get in, probably, there would be a way to get that. So, in my opinion, all due credit, I think, certain organizations who may not be able to build that capability internally of sales and marketing machinery, this entire, going through that grind of bringing in people, working with them, building careers for them, building career aspirations for them. Talent management and development is a different thing, right? Many organizations may not be aware of that. Many organizations may not be willing to actually go through that grind of building that structure to provide meaningful career to the people. Then I think it is better to outsource, right? But if an organization believes in developing an organization which has to be an excellent place for the employees, which is a professional organization where you can meet individuals' aspirations and expectations, you can do talent management and development, you can do training programs for people, and still you feel that, it is better here because you don't want to outsource your customers and brand, right? I wouldn't like to do it. As a head of sales, marketing, CRM, and business strategy for Rustomjee, I would preferably keep the brand and customers too. And then I would like to develop a strategic machinery inside the organization. And then, use them strategically as an manager, use them tactically as an analyst. That is what my approach on management is.
This is one thing which I noticed even when Rakesh said in earlier answer, marketing कुछ X बोल रहा है, when it comes to the sales, वो Y बोल रहे हैं और channel partners Z बोल रहे हैं. Mostly it happens when you are hiring a mandate business. But coming there directly, I would say I have also noticed people who come from FMCG background or who come from Taj. I've seen the way they know their vision, mission, and how they keep it close to their heart and they follow it when they're in that particular company, which I have rarely seen when it comes to real estate brands. So do you feel when there's an inventory less for certain organization, then it makes sense for the mandate business of survival or mandate business being in the picture? But when it comes to bigger brands like you guys, Kalpataru and Rustomjee, mandate business is not the way to go about it because your vision, your mission, the way your team would carry it forward, it might not happen through a outsider or happen through a mandate business. Would you agree with this?
I think we need to fundamentally understand that added advantage or the skill set that a mandate partner brings. I have a lot of respect for those people because most of them are my ex-colleagues in organizations where we have worked together, built brands, developed businesses, and honed those skill sets today, which is valued as problem solvers, right? So for an organization which does not have the ability to attract the right kind of talent, nurture them, develop them over a period of time, that is where it makes sense for you to look at an in-source, outsource. So it is like the old debate, right? Or why did outsourcing start as a business, right? Organizations started thinking, is this my core competitive advantage or is this core to my business? If it is not, so if somebody can do it more efficiently at a better cost, I will outsource, right? If those parameters are satisfied, yes, of course, why would you not? But is it a long-term sustainable solution? It's not.
Because you have to understand what is the role of marketing in an organization, right? There are two fundamental rules. Marketing is the brand custodian. Like, this word is extremely powerful, right? If there is one person in the organization who holds the brand the closest to his or her heart and always does everything which would protect and grow or nurture the brand against the will of even maybe a promoter, head of other functions, customer, it is marketing. Right? So that's a very, very, very powerful and a very, very important job to do, right? The other aspect is marketing is the growth architect for the organization. Where is the growth going to come from? Growth is not going to come from reducing prices or putting your product on offer throughout. If something is on sale throughout, you never know what is the actual price of the product or what is the actual value that could be ascribed to the product. Right? So if that is the role that marketing has to play, it is at the core and heart of any business. So it is your core, right? So you're not going to outsource your core. Now, where does the role of then mandate comes? What is the skill set that it is? Ready resource. Typically, if you have to go through the cycle of hiring the right talent, onboarding them, training them so that those gaps don't happen, marketing is saying something, sales is saying something, and channel partners are saying something else, it's a long cycle of involvement, and it needs that level of dedication, and it needs that level of involvement. When will you do it? When you have a long cycle of business that you see. If I look at Kalpataru's, say, this one launch pipeline for the next 5 years, I know what is the kind of growth that I have charted out and what I will need to do there, right? But if there is a new micro market that I am entering for the first time, and I need talent with local intensive knowledge, for me to go through that cycle will take much longer. That's where I will look for a specialist partner for putting my feet on street, where their resource is already trained in that micro market and have successfully worked in that micro market. That's the role where even for an established organization, it can. So it's a strategic call that you have taken, that I do not have a very long-term vision for this market as yet, which will depend on the success of my first project there. So you'd like to fund on that success by something which is already a proven ready resource. But is it a replacement for your core market business where you are headquartered?
But it's interesting you brought this point, because where the brands are expanding in tier 2 or tier 3 cities, of course, the help of mandate business or those local players come in hand. But don't you think in that particular zone also, maybe your communication can be compromised, or the way you are handling your customers or communication in headquarters, where you're trying to make a mark in a new city, smaller cities, depending on these local players, the brand, the way it should be positioned or the way it should be explained, the way you would explain, a local player of a different company would not be able to communicate that to the customer, right? So don't you think there will be a compromise?
No, I think it's the strength of your systems and processes. See, in marketing, that is where the way you set up your brand architecture, your brand tone of voice, how it is going to be represented, what is the identity, what is getting communicated, and create those across all touch points, and the rigorous effort that goes into training, deployment. It's not just about designing a brochure and printing and sending it to the sales office. It is actually deploying that collateral in person, teaching the sales team how to use that collateral to sell. So the job doesn't end by just creating the beautiful brochures and just doing a dispatch, right? You have to take even more effort when that resource is not internal to your organization. They may have, why are you bringing them on board? You're bringing them on board based on their local market knowledge, their ability to sell, negotiation skills, their overall disposition, ability to handle customer objections. All those skill sets are there because of which you are buying that solution, right? What you need to teach that resource essentially is about your brand, about your project. And because you have onboarded hopefully better quality resource, that can be done faster than if you had not onboarded good quality resource. That is where the role is very, very important. So the involvement doesn't end just because you have outsourced it to a mandate partner. Right? There are organizations where they do not have the sales and marketing skill sets in the organization, where they have completely given that function to a mandate partner, saying, please come and do it for us. This is my product. This is my price point. This is how much I would like to invest in this for this particular campaign, for launch, or for selling this much volume of inventory. And then they take up the entire piece, which is not we see as the success of this business or the growth of this business. And that's not at Kalpataru is how we see mandate partner.
Do you want to add anything to this?
Yeah. So, I think, even when one adds the mandate partner, like I mentioned about my limited experience, so it does not work like a principal and agent relationship. It works more like a partnership. You have to be together. You have to understand. The consumer or the market cannot get a feeling that there are two different entities who are approaching us. So the mandate partners bring in a lot of strengths and advantages in terms of ability to scale up quickly, understand the consumers and the competitive scenario in a particular market, and the ability to execute precisely what you want them to execute. So I think it has to be a collaborative effort. It has to be like a partnership. And also I have seen, whatever I have noticed is, you're talking about brand and communication or the advertising or communication campaigns. I think most of the A-grade developers or most of the brands, would like to keep the brand and communication part, in close observations. And I think the way the brand will be communicated or the benefits of the product will be communicated will be very closely supervised by the brand. And I think it is the local execution, getting more channel partners, getting the walk-ins, getting the customers, meeting and negotiating with them. That entire process needs to be detailed out and has to be worked very, very closely. So I think a partnership or collaborative approach is going to make it successful. And that is what we also see. Where we've been able to form better collaboration at the local site level, we've seen better results.
Good, you brought the channel partner thing. Last year, I remember one of the known developer project I visited in Thane. I'm not going to name the developer, but where you pointed out now, where I had gone to sales office, I could actually see the difference. There's a channel partner and there's a team. A customer would not understand, but being from this industry, the way I was approached, the way the channel partner was talking and the way the salesperson was talking, that differentiate should not be there, right? And I could see that. Yeah. So how do you guys make sure during your site level, the customers who are coming, and even, of course, the channel partner also bring in their customer, your team is also there. How do you make sure the communication stays seamless? The consumer does not feel, because it gave me a feeling, what is happening here? Like this person is communicating in a certain way and this other person is communicating in that way. And that did not give me a feeling of, I would say, it gave me more feeling of being skeptical, what's going on, to the point I want to sit and listen. So how do you make sure such incidents do not happen in your site level?
So what we do is essentially have a very clearly crafted customer journey and roles and responsibilities for everybody who would come in contact with the customer. So if you look at our point of sales, which is our sales galleries, they are almost like what you see as front of house of a well-run hotel or a resort, or say a boutique of a good brand, right? Where everything is orchestrated, everybody has a role to play, and when it happens in sync, then customers leave with the best, I would say, experience or the. So the role that we see for our channel partners is they are essentially a 60 to 65% of our distribution business, right? So if I look at my sales sourcing team, which goes out to the market to activate these channel partners to reach out to their customers. So they are the extended arm of the organization in distribution. So their primary role is in the limited fashion to represent the organization, explain what the product opportunity could be, and more than that, being closest to the customer, have a better understanding of the need or the search stage that the customer is, which is the flow back through the source team to the site sales team, that what essentially is this customer looking for.
Right.
Because that information today, and today technology allows us to do that very, very seamlessly, that because then only you can prepare your pitch and your offering where the customer almost feels that this product is meant only for me. That can only happen when this is working very seamlessly. Now, if you expect that I'm not going to invest in my sales people at my point of sale, and I will ask my channel partner to represent me at my sales gallery, the dissonance starts, which is essentially what you are quoting, because the channel partner actually has no role once he or she has brought the customer to your point of sale. You have designated people there to give the customer an experience on the brand, the legacy, the heritage, the product, showcase the collaterals, whether it's your models, your walkthroughs, fly-throughs, your show apartments. And also on top of that, at Kalpataru, which we do for all our projects, is take the customer behind the scene. We believe that because of our strength in the product, we believe in opening the hood of the car and strip apart the engine to show you what goes into making a Kalpataru home and the difference that it brings in, which we call Kalpataru Roots, where you go through an entire journey of the never seen things in an apartment, like what goes in creating.
Yeah, I've seen that in Thane. Yeah,
exactly. It is so it is there in
cement to your windows.
Because that is what matters. In the longer term, that is what will matter. Now, if you absolve that responsibility to your distribution partner, there is bound to be dissonance because each of them have different objectives. A distribution partner behaves very much like an FMCG retailer, which is about turns and velocity and shelf space and working capital. Right? For him to invest certain working capital in a project, he needs returns within a period of time to keep turning that. So as much as he has the right intentions, but his objectives are different. So he cannot represent you and cannot look at things which is meant to be serviced by you. So you cannot absolve that responsibility. And you are actually wasting that resource where the distribution could be more in the market, in newer markets where you are not present, to get you a higher volume of walk-ins.
Right.
Which you need then your team can service those walk-ins and you can actually increase the scope of your distribution. So I think that's where sometimes dissonance happens, and we are very, very clear and careful about what role each of these players will play in this theater that we put up in our sales guidance.
Nice. Also, thankfully, Maharera has introduced this agent where people have to get their license and everything. But when it comes to channel partners, after having these licenses also in place, knowing that they will communicate and know the knowledge of whatever project they're associated with, do you even provide them a workshop or training when you're associating with the channel partner? So that when you're making them come visit the sales site, bringing a customer in, they are in the power of your team in terms of the communication.
That's very, very important.
Absolutely.
That's so important is that, I don't think, it can be for everything. Now, coming to the point of channel partners, I'll just go back to, the previous dissonance point. We've seen some situations where customers come with the channel partner, but they were not aware of that they are with the channel partner. I think that is one particular thing that you were referring to. So we've created, so what we do is that we implemented CRM. And in our CRM journey, it is very, very clear at the time of customer's information form that we capture at the time of first visit. It is written very clearly what is the source of customer visit, whether it is a channel partner
So talking about regulation, given the recent mishap that happened because of the billboard which got, I think, fallen because of the storm in New Bombay, investigation happened that New Bombay and Mumbai has a lot of illegal billboards now. Notices are sent. But as market experts, where you are, taking these billboards in consideration for your marketing and communication, do you also cross-verify the vendor's license of those particular billboards, or is it going to happen now because of such incident has taken place? Starting with you.
Yeah. So very unfortunate incident. And I think, the moment it came to, I think it happened in the afternoon, 3:30, 4 o'clock. And ever since, I just saw the video, I just prayed, and that's the message that I also put on some of the groups, that hope nobody is injured. And then, next day morning, we start hearing about that. And my heart really reaches out to all those people. Another thing, something which is involuntarily, quickly I checked is that which brand was there on that billboard. And then, I realized there was no brand there, right? Because, as a brand, you got an ownership about whichever media you are on. So if your brand is there, you got that responsibility that, that media should not hurt the customer in any way or the citizens in any manner. So in fact, thankfully, I cross-checked immediately with my marketing operations team. I actually made a note and sent it to them. And I wanted to understand what happens. See, what happens is that every billboard has got, a label physically. Every billboard is supposed to have a label which talks about the licensee of that, the period of validity, and the approval numbers, right? All those things are there. So for a long time, we had that practice that by awarding the contracts of billboard or any kind of, the outdoor, we always used to insist for the licensed media and always used to insist for looking at the proper certification with the users. After that, I again requested my marketing ops person to go and speak to legal person. Is there anything else that we need to, kind of put in over there? So we realized that we were in the right space. We were following the right norms, and we were completely complied, not just in terms of compliance, but in the letter and spirit, from a morality point of view. So that's what we've done. And also as an organization, we've got, and real estate actually, such a difficult product category where so many laborers, so many people work at the site, and all those are difficult situations. I think, people's safety has to be amongst the topmost thing, and we take pride in saying that, people's safety is never compromised in any of our and in any. So this billboard thing was already fortunate.
So are you guys checking, or will you be now checking, making sure everyone has a license?
I think it's
and the right size, because what we got to know, BMC approved size is 40 by 40. This particular billboard was 120 by 120.
So I think it's an integral part of the way you conduct business in anything. As marketeers, we are so cautious about even hurting somebody's sentiment. And here we are talking of a case where lives have been lost. It's absolutely unthinkable tragedy. It's a wake-up call for, I think, many of us in the industry, not only in real estate, across, that what is the responsibility that we have, and how much deep that responsibility runs. So as a practice, we work with the leading media buying organization in the country. So Madison is our media buying partner, extremely respected. And it has been put in place primarily because unfortunately, the out-of-home business in India is still very unorganized. It is not as organized as, say, print or TV or digital, because there are many parties involved in the process, right? I am the advertiser. My message will go up there. Then I have a media buyer. I mentioned about Madison, whose arm Platinum buys media for us, extremely professionally run setup. Then there is somebody who is selling that media or has license for that outdoor site. Then there is somebody who actually owns that site, right?
So this chain is where the documentation that would go for us before awarding a purchase order for any outdoor site would very clearly ask for all the fundamental documents, right? Which is about about the license, about the validity, about the size, everything, about what is the description. And in our SLAs with our media buyer, just like we put the performance matrix, right? If it is a lit, it has to be lit. Are you sending auditing time? Is it obstructing any views? Has it done any malpractice like cutting down trees and things like that? We are extremely stringent on that, putting that down. What this case, unfortunately, is a wake-up call is that there is certainly I would say, a lax somewhere in this long chain.
Yeah.
Right? Which is a wake-up call for us as brands to increase the stringency of checks. So what has happened post that is, as part of new campaigns, the stringency has increased so much that so-called not to be missed sites today are being put aside if the documentation is not more than 100% satisfactory. It's not that it wasn't there earlier, but this is absolutely unacceptable that for something like that to cause so much calamity. So we have that responsibility to do more. We cannot absolve ourselves by saying that I have bought it from somebody. It is his or her responsibility to get all the approvals, documentation, everything is in place, right? Because end of the day, if God forbid your brand was there, it would have severely damaged, as much as it has resulted in calamity, it would have severely damaged the reputation of your brand. So you have that responsibility, and I think it is extremely, unfortunately, like many other things, the wake up call only happens when there is a tragedy. But I hope this maybe is the final call which is needed for cleaning up a lot of that and organizing, get better players in the process, just like we have in the other medias that we use for our marketing campaigns.
So I've always given credit to Maharera because among all the states, Maharera has been always active and always made sure the customers, is also taken care, their grievances taken care. So when it comes to the policies of marketing, Maharera has gotten a lot of policies in picture. Earlier, everyone could do the communication from the hoardings to everything. Now, if you're RERA or OC, you can there are certain policies by Maharera that how you need to communicate when you have to introduce your projects. So over the time, how do you see Maharera has actually played a good role when it comes to real estate marketing, communication and everything? And what more regulatory firm needs to do for more betterment of the real estate industry in terms of focusing on the marketing and communication?
So, first of all, I truly applaud the efforts of Maharera. And in fact, I travel to other states also, and I feel that Maharera is actually the best implemented RERA in any state. Now, the communication is extremely clear, and there's a lot of focus on communicating the right thing only to the customers. One has to create the renders which conform to what you are going to deliver later. Also, the advertising that one does is also absolutely clear. And also, I think after the introduction of RERA, the consumers are feeling more secure and consumers are feeling more confident of buying real estate. Earlier, there used to be that fear, and then, people would somehow, they need to buy, so they used to buy. So I'm a firm believer that anything which is good for the consumer is good for the industry. If with RERA implementation, managing that or adhering to the policies, if it becomes a difficult business proposition for the builders, I think better be it. Because anything which is good for consumer is going to be good for industry. Because today when people invest their hard-earned money in real estate, they are sure, they are more confident that they are going to get the delivery and possession. I also discovered, after joining Rustomjee and after some time is that, even before RERA's introduction, we used to run those kinds of schemes where we used to assure the customer that if you don't get it by a particular date, we'll compensate you. So it is something like giving that assurance on the table that you are definitely going to get that. So it was kind of a claim that we used to make in certain projects that we did. So, I think things good for the customer. Another thing, what I would like to say is little, going back on how it is happening in the industry. See, there are hundreds and hundreds of real estate builders in the market. Now, all those are providing, some offer value proposition to the customers. Customers are buying from them. I think it is also important for customers, if it is possible, you buy from trusted brand names. You are buying your most prized possession, most expensive product you are buying. Customers also need to be careful of the fact where they are buying from. There's one data which actually, surprises me because I've worked in various industries, various geographies, is, Mumbai real estate market is highly fragmented. Top 10 players have got just about 20% share.
Yeah.
Even less than that. And if I just tell you another thing is that in the COVID period, after the COVID period, 2021 and 21-22, it went up to 24 to 25%. And ever since the situation has normalized again, I'm not saying top 10, the same is true for top 25, top 50. So people have that risk-taking ability. People go and take risk, and I think it is important for everybody to understand where you are putting your money and what you are buying, and buy it from the trusted players. So, having said that, I think the RERA implementation is universal everywhere. All the organizations are supposed to be, honoring what RERA is doing. In terms of marketing communication, there's a lot of structure there, is that you can communicate what you are going to do. And in fact, in our case, many a time, we get surprised, is that, is the render more beautiful or is the actual picture more beautiful? And in fact, we make those comparisons for the customer. When we are making a pitch to the customers, we tell them that, just try to figure out which one is render. Many a time, people say that original is render because that looks more beautiful. So I think it is good for the consumers. What RERA could do, I think, I think it is just that, because there are a number of players, right? How do you ensure that everybody understands the importance? Everybody, has that fear of law.
Yeah.
Everybody ensures, there are red lights, but still people jump red lights. There is that risk-taking ability in the people. Now, either you place policemen, traffic guards at every red light, or you make some automation which actually sends the challan at people's places. I think it is about the implementation of the law. Laws are always strong, stringent. I think implementation of the law is basically what determines, how much people comply with.
So you think the RERA, which is yet to still reveal, they had come out to grade the projects, right? Based on whatever the brand it is or whatever legacy they have or the background they have. They have started to introduce, or they are still in discussion that let's grade the projects, not basis on what legacy or what brand it is. Do you think this will also help customers to understand how, because they will see branded developers will provide you the date of possession of the delivery on the same time, amenities as promised will be delivered. This can also give I would say a power to the branded developers.
Yeah, as a responsible corporate who has been doing this business successfully for more than 50 years now, 55th year, we always welcome efforts which enhances the reputation and the health of the industry. Unfortunately, one of the key pain points for real estate as a business in India was always about this lack of trust. And that got propagated even more when almost paper dreams were sold in many markets. Mumbai, that way, I would always say, has been far, far more mature and than many, many real estate markets in the country. Right? The Mumbai buyer has been far, far more stringent in actually deciphering what is true value or what is just too good to be true. Right? So the introduction of RERA is
critical and essential for an industry of the size of real estate, which is about 12-13% of the GDP of the country. How can something which is such a large employment generator next to agriculture, the largest employment generator in the country, be left to the vagaries of few unscrupulous players who bring down the overall reputation of the business? Where is the incentive for then actually, I would say, good players, organized players, grade A players who invest huge amount of money every year in their systems, process, talent, infrastructure, technology to take the overall status of the industry up, right? Because they are left to a few players and then everybody gets colored by the under the same line, right? You as a consumer, you are not sure who to trust. That is a pain, and that as an individual, you will never be able to solve. You cannot go and say, "Oh, I'm very good, kind of stuff," right? So I think that's where the implementation of RERA was extremely essential, right? Which today has an incentive for people saying that, hey, I cannot get away by saying anything. I cannot get away by promising anything which I know won't be able to do. So it has raised the standards, right? So and that's a key role of a regulator. And for the market to grow, for the market to mature and be at the same level as global real estate markets, that is where regulators, then warranties, guarantees, like if you look at the UK market, right? If you the National Housing Board there gives a 10-year warranty for any home that you buy.
Yeah.
Right? Their escrow systems are extremely stringent. So any transaction, if you buy a home in London, the transaction is between your lawyer and the developer's lawyer, and they are custodian of the entire money till the time the developer actually delivers. So, which we call as, say here, subvention schemes. That's a standard there. A developer cannot have more than 20% before delivering the home, right? So, which are all signs of matured markets. We are progressing there. And Maharaja has taken, I would say, the absolute precedence, and they have taken the leading position in the entire country, saying that we are going to do things for the first time. And I see the grading of projects is a welcome step in that direction, done with the right intent, done by the right technical experts who have the understanding, appreciation of what is the difference between one project to the other. Say like your environment standards, right? Your, say, IGBC standards, right? Which helps you for a consumer to understand what are the things that has gone on behind creating this as an environmentally sustainable product, which will help me eventually save money, save good for the environment. So I would certainly see that as a very, very positive step, taken with the right intent and by the right skill set of people being, I would say, engaged to do that process. Absolutely welcome.
So before I wrap up, this is my last question because he got the word subvention scheme. So in 2024, we have noticed during Feb and March, developers have reintroduced buy now, pay later, where the question comes in that is this reintroduction happening because there is a oversupply or softening demand, or is a proactive approach for having an active buyer sentiment, or I'll just reframe it again. So it's good he got the word subvention scheme, because my question comes in the picture is in 2024, Feb and March saw a different marketing and sales happening where the developers have reintroduced buy now and pay later. The question comes in, is it because there's an oversupply and a softening demand? Or is it because there's a proactive approach to understand the buyer sentiment and taking the approach of sales momentum happening? So what is your take on this?
Is there an oversupply, actually? So I think the data that I've been seeing, Kritika, is that, in the entry and the mid-level, aspiration level, below 3-4 crores, I think supplies are lesser than the consumption, than the absorption. It is only in the premium, super premium, and maybe to some extent in luxury projects. Because in the last 3-4 years, there was a lot of offtake, absorption of luxury products. And also there are, the consumer preferences are going towards premium and super premium. That is where there is an expectation in the market, is that pie of the market will eventually grow faster and larger than the other. So maybe there may be some kind of readjustment happening where there are more units coming in premium and super premium, because in the last 2 years, thankfully, the pie has grown and marketeers may be sensing an opportunity there, and hence most of the players are readjusting. Now, so I don't think, there is an oversupply or there's an issue of more inventory with the industry, at least with the top players in terms of the data that we see. And so I don't think there's a pressure of supplies. That's point number one. The markets are likely to continue to do well. The economy looks robust. The fundamentals look robust. The growth rate for Indian economy has been now revised again, upward 6.7%. So we are expecting that, the capital markets are doing well, right? And and somebody commented that, I think this is the first ever time when all asset classes are doing well, whether it is the stock exchange or it is real estate or even gold also. So all asset classes are doing well. Generally, it used to happen that, and then, when all the asset classes are doing well, the chances are maybe, at times people try to liquidate or realize their investments in stock exchange, put it into more stable and larger ticket sizes like real estate. And then, that is the process which continues. So to my expectations, I think the market will continue to grow. Mumbai market CAGR has been about 25 to 27% in terms of value in the last 3-4 years. While in terms of units, it's been about 17-18% Y-on-Y. So I think, this trend will continue. So this upscale will continue. The percentages may slightly come down because the base is growing every day. I think what's happening is that builders, because the inventories have got liquidated, you got more cash, and, you are having less debt as compared to what used to be in the past. I think it is an effort to nurture and continue to build that market. I think every consumer-friendly organization would like to create a situation where it is easier and comfortable for the customers to buy. I wouldn't think of it as, an aftermath of oversupply or thinking about, having that feeling of being scared that, what if and all that. I think it is about, trying to look at the competitive levels in that market, trying to make your proposition best possible for the customer. And then, every brand will have their own story, whether you want to work on CLP or on the payment scheme. Consumers also understand at times is that if there is a payment scheme, maybe, there is a different cost. If I want to work on CLP, then I can ask for discount. We've also seen, at times when we offer payment scheme, customers come and say that, what if I manage it myself, through my bankers and give us discount, and customer is happy with this. So I think it is fine. It is just one of the marketing efforts or one of the consumer proposition efforts.
If it's not, so if it's not oversupplied, do you agree that it is to proactively, enhance the customer sentiment and sales momentum with the subvention scheme?
So subvention has its role to play when you want to have a spike and come out of a steady cycle, right? The most successful cases have been when you have, say, suppose in a development, you have another round of inventory that will come up and you would want this shelf space to be emptied for the new product, right? So I'll just go back to a little bit on the fundamental of real estate. I believe real estate business is basically a mix of two businesses. One is which it draws from hospitality and travel, which is yield management. It's like in a hotel, yesterday's room is not today's room. So yesterday's sales is not today's sales. You have to sell today. And the second it draws is from FMCG, which is velocity. I have to have things moving fast so that my shelf space keeps getting emptied for new product to be put there. If a dart keeps occupying my shelf space, I'm not only blocking my working capital, I'm also blocking my ability to introduce new product in the distribution. So when your business is an amalgamation of these two, the velocity becomes very important for you to move, right? It's not, if you look at the overhang of supplies in Mumbai, it has dropped, and more so for grade A players. Just to give you a ballpark idea, my annual operating plan for this financial year depends 40% on new product launch. So my same store sales cannot give me the growth that I need
because there is so little inventory which is left in my existing projects. So the growth, so it's not a question of that desperation and inventory overhang, which was there. And thankfully in India, the subvention levels were not as ridiculous as some where people were giving 5 years, 6 years, 7 years forward subvention. Like in 2018-19, there were certain developers, say in Dubai, who were giving you 10 years forward subvention. You move in today, start saying, pay me up for the next 10 years. No bank, nothing involved, right? Which is not the case. We are far more robust today. The health of the leading players is far, far better than what it was, say, pre-COVID. So a lot of times, a lot of this is also, so BNPL as a strategy is not just limited to real estate, right? It is there in every field, every product that you buy. The most expensive phones are also bought on subvention, isn't it? So if that's the case, so are they desperate to sell or are they not being able to sell? The leading, say, mobile brand, their India business is growing manifold. So
There's for sales momentum.
Exactly, right?
Okay.
So a lot of time is that. The second thing is also attracting a larger pool of customers who may not have considered you, thinking it is beyond my limit or budget to buy.
True.
Then when you explain to them and break it down for them that everything comes at a cost, but maybe your earning ability will also increase over them because the economy is doing well. Most of us have a very positive outlook on the economy and our personal growth. So we believe we are going to do better tomorrow than what we are doing today. So basis that belief, you would be able to invest in something which is so important for you, which you may not have thought that something which you would have invested in at this point of time. Maybe you would have waited to accumulate a little bit more wealth before taking that plunge. So that's where subvention schemes also have a role to play in certain segments of products. In certain categories of products, like absolutely at the top end, we always more often than not see reverse subvention, where our investor would come and say, if I pay you more, will you give me an NPV discount and let me pick it up? Because that's not the challenge that he has. His issues are very different than a 1 or a 2-bed home buyer in a Mumbai suburb.
So that's why Sir rightly said, because aspiration is one of the thing where subvention scheme work with the home buyers, right? Because in India, the major purchaser of Apple, if you see their stats, is India because of this EMI scheme, and half of the, I would say, the sales or the people coming in is from the India market for the Apple user.